Hey everyone, welcome back. So today's Friday. Obviously, we had another not so good day in the markets and in Bitcoin, obviously. But today we're going to talk about Hut 8 provided their production update for April. We're going to look at that. We're going to also look at Luna is continuing to buy Bitcoin. They bought another 1.5 billion, so we'll take a look at that story. And then we'll also take a look at Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, had an interview. So we'll take a look at that as well. Some predictions from him on crypto in a couple of years. Kind of interesting. We'll take a look at that. And then also we'll take a look at a video from Kevin O'Leary on Bitcoin miners. And I kind of disagree with him a little bit. So we'll get into that and I'll provide you kind of my data on that. So as always, not financial advice. You guys know the drill here. So let's take a look at the miners here for how they did today. And we'll take a look at Bitcoin as well. And possibly Bitcoin has maybe hit a new high low, basically a low high. But we'll take a look at it. So Annie was actually up a little bit today. It was up 0.66 to $1.52. It's now down in the after hours at another 1.97%. And we're looking here on the one-day chart. We're still above the bottom that it kind of reached here at $1.32, but not too far off of it. And Argo was down another 5.41% on the day to 70 cents. It hit 66.57 cents here quite a few days ago, almost about a month ago, I would imagine. Digital was down 4% today to $1.92. It's up a little bit in the after hours, 2.08% to $1.96. It has put in a brand new low today at $1.92. Bitfarms was down 4.58% to $2.71. It hit a new low today as well at $2.64. It's up a little bit in the after hours right now, up 4.43% to $2.83. Cleanspark was down 5.2% on the day to $6.54. It is up now 3.06% to $6.74. It's been a while, almost 2 months, I would guess, almost 3 months now, since it bottomed out at 5.47. Cores was down 2.82% to $5.17. It is now up a little bit in the after hours to $5.20, but it put in also a brand new low here at $4.83 on the day. Digihost was down 3.03% to $2.24. 3 days ago, it hit a bottom at $2.12. DMG was down 4.88% to 3.34 cents, and it also had a new low today at 34.09. Hive was down 4.76% to $1.40. It hit also a new low today on the day at $1.36, and it's up a little bit in the after hours to $1.41. Hut 8 was down 6.06% to $3.41. It's up a little bit in the after hours to $3.43, but it also hit a new low today on the daily at $3.29. Iris Energy was down 3.26% to $9.49, and it's up a little bit in the after hours, 2.74% to $9.75. Last time it hit a low here was back in the 24th of January, so quite a ways away, but we're getting close to it. Luxxfolio was down 10.92% to 15 cents. It obviously also reached a new low here at 15 cents today. Marathon was down 5.97% to $14.95. It's up a little bit in the after hours to $15.07. It too hit a new low today at $14.45. We're getting quite a few new lows on the miners here. Mawson was down 5.47% to $3.63. It hit a low here back on what is that? January, February, March 7th. And then Riot was down 6.87% to $9.49. It's up a little bit in the after hours to $9.65. It too had a new low today at $9.30. And then we got Stronghold. Stronghold was down 7.46% to $3.10. It's up a little bit after hours to $3.19. But it too hit a new low today at $3.04. So a lot of miners hitting their new lows here, it looks like. On the is it the 52 for this guy? Let me see here. 52-week low, $3. Yep. So it looks like a lot of them are hitting the lows, which is unfortunate. All right, but let's take a look at Bitcoin here. So in the Bitcoin daily chart right now, I drew a couple lines in for the new low highs, new higher lows, basically. So we're going back to all the way. When was that before? That was back here where we reached on July 19th in 2021. We reached about, what is that, 29,000, almost 30,000 or so. and then we put in a low back on January 24th. We came pretty close to it again on February 24th. And then on this line here, we are at May 6th, which was today. And it looks like we have an ascending triangle possibly happening here. We'll see if this plays out this way, but we're going from the high here of 98,000, which was reached on November 10th of 2021. And then just following the high points here all the way back down to here. So it looks like if this plays out the way it's playing out right now, we may finally, kind of beat the bear market here a little bit around June 17th if this plays out the way it's shown here, and then we'll either fall back down or go much higher. So we'll have to see how that will work out. But right now it's at 35,986. It was down obviously quite a bit here in the last 2 days. So if we look at the peaks to valleys and calculated how much we went down, it's from the peak here all the way down here, we went down almost 10% or so. On the chart, to the bottom here, we went as far as almost 12% on Bitcoin in the last couple of days, which was obviously rough. We are still obviously not out of the woods. We could fall down to our support here at 32,750 or so if we don't retrace our, which is now our, not a support, but resistance, which is at 37,500. So we'll see how this plays out in the coming weeks. But right now, May is not looking to be a good month when typically it's been a pretty good month for Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look at Ethereum really quick. Ethereum, following suit of Bitcoin and all the other crypto markets, it is down to 2,689. It's down another 0.10% right now on the daily. But if we look at the peaks from the last couple of days here, we basically came down in price to about the same 11.25% in the last 3 days or so. So it's obviously pain in the market, which is not good, but I think we'll be okay going forward. If you're a long-term investor, I think you'll be fine. Buy the dips if you can. Not financial advice as always. And then let's take a look at the hash rate here really quick as well. So we'll refresh this. And we obviously hit a 227 million hash rate on the 7-day average. We are at approximately 223 right now. Raw values are pointing the same thing where we keep peaking up higher. So miners are getting installed, which is a good thing as well. All right, so let's take a look at Hut 8 mining monthly production update for April 2022. So here's some of the details. So production highlights for April 2022, 309 Bitcoins were mined, resulting in an average production rate of 10.3 Bitcoin per day. Ethereum mining, for which we received payment in Bitcoin, generated approximately 15% of our total production at an average cost of less than 3,200 Canadian dollars per Bitcoin. 100% of the self-mined Bitcoin for the month of April were deposited into custody, consistent with Hut 8's HODL strategy. Total Bitcoin balance held in reserves is 6,769 as of April 30th, 2022. Installed operating capacity currently sits at 2.58 exahash. I don't know if that also includes their GPU mining. If it does, then this is kind of where I have them, and I'll display. I'll provide you guys with the information as far as how I came up with that number. And then additional updates here. So our mining uptime was curtailed for a few days in April, and I showed that in my spreadsheet as well. April marked the last month that Hut 8 hosted miners. The company's operations became 100% self-mined on May 1st, 2022. So this is actually really good news. Hosting is not as lucrative as self-mining, in my belief. So I think this is a good thing for them. They obviously cleared up a little bit of room to install their own miners, which is good as well. So let's take a look at the numbers that I have here for Hut 8, and then we'll take a look at this spreadsheet later on, which is about Kevin O'Leary comments. Where do I have Hut 8? There it is. So here's what we got for Hut 8. Obviously mined 309 Bitcoin in April. They mined 345 in March, which is a decrease of 36, and this is possibly because they were shut down for a couple of days. And then institutions, we can see that more institutions bought in. So we got 185 institutions right now instead of 178. Shares is 40.92 million compared to 40.33 million, so a little bit more of an increase. But obviously percent owned is 23.6, so there's got to be some share dilution here happening as well. Strong buy is 1, regular buy is 4, and then we have price come down a little bit as far as the high, 1480 for the high, 1515 was the previous high from analysts, and the average is now 997 and the low is 779. So that's where we are with that. So currently they basically mined about 11.63 million. So if we look at the numbers here for April, January, February, we are here. So I got them at, April's right over here. So 25 days basically mining on the already installed miners, and then 20 days mining for any new equipment that was installed. That got us up to the 11.63 million. For revenue, I did update the numbers for GPU mining just to kind of make all the numbers work, to about 1.8 million in revenue in Canadian on this. And that would represent these miners who are being installed, which are the 93 terahash, 208 of these, and 255 also the 93 terahash miners. So they are at now 2.487 in Bitcoin ASIC mining hash rate, exahash. And if we look at the total numbers up here, where I have the ASIC miners and the GPU miners by themselves, we get to about the 2.581, which is what they're reporting. So I think this is okay. I think we're good there. But we'll see, obviously, when they actually report quarterly earnings if we're there as well. BTC HODL is at 6,769, which is right there. So that's 246.9, almost 247 million in value. And that is with the Bitcoin price of 36,480. I think we're a little bit lower than that right now. Where were we on the Bitcoin price? Bitcoin is at 30. Yeah, we're up $600 off on it, so not too bad. So that represents 42% of their HODL position in their market cap. So HODL per market cap is 42%. So that's a lot. That tells me that they are obviously not being valued the way that they should be based on what their hash rate is and future hash rate is going to be. And future hash rate is right now reported at 3.2 exahash. So that makes them 77% installed right now, operational. And average hash rate per miner is right now 89, almost 90 terahash, which isn't too bad, but it's not the best and it's not the worst either. So they're kind of in the middle right now on that. Shares outstanding is 171 million, current price of $3.41, obviously. Market cap is 584 million in USD dollars. And that would give us, basically they're trading at about a price to earnings multiple of 5. I have them at $3.51, which obviously includes the last 3 quarters and the current quarter of 34 million, which is this quarter that we're in now, which is Q2, and then the prior 3 quarters are Q1, Q4, and Q3. Numbers on that, I think they should be closer to approximately 10 to 11, which would get them to about $7.72 right now. But if Bitcoin pumps, obviously, that is going to change. So the analysts have them at, where were the analysts? Analysts 1480 and the low 779. So I think the low would be right around there, 772. And if we go a little bit higher, we could obviously get them to 20 earnings multiple. Then you're looking at 1403. And they're at 1480. So I think that's a pretty fair estimate as far as analyst ratings and price targets. But it all depends on Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the biggest variable in all of this. Bitcoin goes up, these guys are pumping nicely. Bitcoin goes down, they're dropping nicely as well. So overall, not a good month for them. They were down, obviously, in BTC production. They were also a slight increase in hash rate. And we obviously need further news from them on getting more miners installed going into the end of this year, possibly into next year as well, to get their hash rate up, because they are going to be one of the smaller ones here really quick if they don't provide any kind of updates on that. All right, so that's it for Hot 8. Let's take a look at another story here. So our next story is on Luna Foundation. So Luna Foundation Guard further bolsters stablecoin reserves by raising $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. So the Luna Foundation Guard has acquired $1.5 billion in Bitcoin to bolster the reserves of its most popular stablecoin, known as US Terra. The latest transaction by Luna Foundation Guard brings it closer to its goal of accumulating $10 billion of Bitcoin to back the US Terra stablecoin, or UST. Du Quan, co-founder and CEO of Terraform Labs, the group that launched the Terra blockchain, said he expects to reach the 10 billion goal by the end of the third quarter, so we're about 2 quarters away or so on that. The reserve now holds about 3.5 billion in Bitcoin, which puts the UST Forex reserve in the top 10 Bitcoin holders in the world. It also holds north of 100 million in Avalanche, another cryptocurrency. In its latest Bitcoin acquisition this week, the Luna Foundation Guard closed a 1 billion OTC swap with crypto prime broker Genesis for 1 billion worth of UST. It also bought 500 million of Bitcoin from crypto hedge fund Three Arrows Capital. So they're obviously getting other coins as well. And for the first time, you're starting to see a pegged currency that is attempting to observe the Bitcoin standard. Quan said it's making a strong directional bet that keeping a lot of foreign reserves in the form of digital native currency is going to be a winning recipe. So obviously time will tell if that is the case. They're obviously making a big bet on it. So we'll see. And continuing on here, the jury's still out on the effectiveness of the subject, but I think it's symbolic in the sense now that we live in a time where there's excess money printing across the board, and when monetary policy is highly politicized, and there are citizens that are self-organizing to try to bring systems back to a sounder paradigm of money. And Quan added, and I agree with him there, we're definitely living in some tough times right now. Possibly not, well, I wouldn't say as tough as back in the 1920s and 30s and things like that, but it's definitely for our generation now, it's pretty tough times. The corporate buying of Bitcoin can greatly influence the value of the currency and the space itself, said Joe Kruger, market strategist for LMAX Group. With more demand from institutional comes added liquidity and longer-term interest while validating the asset class at the same time, which is true. I agree with him there. And we're seeing that adoption happening, which is good, which we want to see that. And this, that adoption rate is just going to keep growing, I think, as we get into the next couple of years. Continuing on, so there's traditionally been this gulf between where crypto native market participants are participating, and Terra is on the far end of that. It's designed by crypto native people for crypto native people, said Josh Lim, head of derivatives at Genesis Global Trading. There's another corner for the market that's mostly institutional. He added they're still waiting on things like buying Bitcoin, inserting it in cold storage, or doing CME futures on Bitcoin. They're very disjointed parts of the market, and Genesis is trying to bridge that gap and allow more institutional capital to come into the competitive world. We're also seeing it with Fidelity offering Bitcoin, being able to have Bitcoin in their 401ks for their clients. So there's a lot of adoption happening here. But I just wanted to point this out. This was kind of interesting. I think this is also what's keeping Bitcoin up a little bit right now this past week. I think we could have fallen a lot harder if it wasn't for this, and with other institutions buying it as well. So this is all good news. And let's take a look at Coinbase CEO. So Coinbase CEO issued stunning crypto prediction as the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum suddenly soared. And this was back on May 4th. We obviously had that day where we got close to 40,000, and then the following day we fell back down. But here's what the article has to say. So the Bitcoin price soared to almost 70,000 per Bitcoin last year, up from under 10,000 2 years ago, while the Ethereum price has seen a similar rise. Both are down by around 40% from their all-time highs. However, now, Brian Armstrong, the chief executive of major Bitcoin and crypto exchange, Coinbase, has predicted there will be a massive influx of crypto users in the coming decade, forecasting 1 billion people will have used crypto by 2032. So that's a huge increase, obviously, from where we are right now, and I think it's definitely doable. But continuing on here, so here's Brian Armstrong. So here's a quote from him. So my guess is that in 10 to 20 years, we'll see a substantial portion of GDP happening in the crypto economy, said Armstrong. And he was speaking at the Milken Institute Global Conference this week in comments first reported by Bloomberg. Coinbase, based in San Francisco, currently has almost 90 million verified users across 100 countries. So they're definitely still a small one compared to what the market potential is. So continuing on, the crypto economy has grown rapidly over the last few years as business and services spring up around Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. Decentralized finance, DeFi. The idea that crypto technology can replace lenders and issuers and blockchain-based digital collectibles known as non-fungible tokens have both become multi-billion-dollar markets in just a couple of years, which is also true. NFTs, within the last 2 years, we've obviously driven the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum up from Bitcoin was down almost at 3,000 back in, 2019, 2020, something like that. And then we've obviously come way back up in it. So we are seeing a lot of growth going on here. So some of the world's largest technology companies, including Facebook's parent Meta and Elon Musk's electric car company Tesla, have begun adopting crypto. We've also got obviously MicroStrategy. We've got other companies as well getting into it. What's the other one? Stripe, which is now called Block. So there's just more and more adoption going on. Financial giants on Wall Street have also slowly started to roll out crypto services. So like I was saying, Fidelity, right? Others as well. ARK Investment Management Chief Executive Kathy Wood, one of the biggest backers of the Web3, a name for the crypto and blockchain-based next generation of the internet that some think could succeed the current Silicon Valley-centric model, warned financial companies not to fall behind. Right? It's either somebody's going to innovate over you, or you have to basically implode your own business and innovate in that same space. In the case of DeFi and next generation internet, we are seeing a lot of financial companies losing talent to crypto. Wood said, according to Bloomberg, so they have to take it seriously or else they are going to be hollowed out, which is very true. So we are seeing, people are seeing, younger generations, people that are interested in crypto are seeing other companies that are innovating in the crypto space as more interesting, and they're actually jumping ship from normal financial institutions and going into those, which is kind of interesting to see that is actually happening. And it has sped up a lot over the last 2 years. Obviously, with the price of Bitcoin going up and other cryptocurrencies, NFTs, metaverse happening, everything in that space. And, you can buy land in the metaverse. And so there's a lot of projects going on, and it's just a little bit of a Wild West right now. But I think eventually everything's going to calm down, and especially with regulatory frameworks, things will definitely I think take off even more going forward. So there's that. And then let's take a listen to Kevin O'Leary and why I kind of disagree with him, and point out some things why I disagree with him. So here we go. So let's start this.
Ignoring politicians, ignoring policymakers, ignoring government, ignoring the SEC, those days are over. Those decisions have been made. And you can see it happen because the public mining companies in the U.S. used to be a direct proxy to Bitcoin pricing. But there no longer are. Those stocks have been crushed. They've gone down way more than Bitcoin has because everybody knows carbon credits are BS. And they're going to get called out for it when the SEC forces an audit, which no accounting firm is going to sign.
Okay, so that's what I want to point out. So he's basically saying that the crypto companies are basically getting crushed because of what the SEC is possibly going to be requesting, that any credits for carbon have to be accounted for and auditors have to sign off on them. I think that's I don't think that's correct. And he's saying that also that Bitcoin and the miners were basically following the suit, and they've kind of decoupled a little bit. I think that's also incorrect. If you go back far enough to like 2017, 2018, if you look at like Hive was at like $3 and something in 2017, at the end of 2017, when Bitcoin was falling down and everything else was falling down. It fell to like 8 cents at its lowest. After that, once Bitcoin started pumping up, it went up to almost $5. Well, so they had a lot greater gains than Bitcoin did. And we're seeing the same thing when Bitcoin goes down. So we're having a lot greater losses when that happens. But it also becomes tremendous buying opportunity. So I wanted to also point out that he's saying that institutions are basically jumping ship and making the miners fall in price, which might be partially true, but looking at the numbers that we have here. So here are all the miners that I have basically data on. We are also tracking institutions as far as how many institutions are each month basically holding shares in each particular company, number of shares that they're holding, percentage owned, right? So we have that data here. We have it for some of them going back a couple months, some of them only for a couple months, since this data is relatively fresh and use something that I just started doing in the last basically 4 or 5 months or so. And then some of these miners I also only added within the last couple months. So going back here, we can see here that Argo has about 68 million shares owned by institutions. Currently, this is the latest numbers that we have, and then these go back further. So what I'm doing here is, number one, I'm taking the current month that we have data for, minus the prior month to see if there's an increase or a decrease. And we're also looking at the overall numbers here. So the last time this was reported, or the furthest time this was reported, or at least I recorded it, to the current and what that difference is between it. And then we're seeing what the percentage difference is based on that earliest data that we have and then the newest data. So for Argo, we are at 68.6 million. Prior to that, the earliest data that I have on them was 63 million. So that's obviously an increase of 5.6 million shares. So it doesn't look to me like, if we go across the board, it doesn't look to me like institutions are bailing ship or, abandoning ship on the miners. I think it's just the way the market is with Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin goes down, these guys get crushed. Bitcoin goes up, these guys fly high. It's par for the course in this space. And that's part of the thing that I think Kevin O'Leary doesn't at least know yet or understands. He hasn't been in the space long enough. He's been in it since Bitcoin started pumping to above 40,000. So in the last 2 years, he hasn't been around since 2017. Watch the space and everything else. So this is where I think he's kind of wrong on it. But I'll provide a link to the full video for you guys so you guys can see the whole thing. It's actually pretty interesting on that. So Bitfarms, we obviously had a decrease here in both the recent and the overall. BitDigital had a slight increase. Cleanspark, we had an overall huge increase. Recent was a small increase. Core Scientific, we obviously know that Core Scientific went public through a SPAC. I think this is why we have such a huge decrease from the original amount. I think people front-loaded it, bought it before the SPAC, and then after the SPAC came through, they started selling it. So that might be the reason for that. Digihost, obviously a nice increase here compared to where they were. They were at 105,000, now they're at 1.92 million. So about a 1,700% increase in ownership, which is great. But obviously a nice increase of 1.8 million overall. DMG, recently we had a decrease of 940,000. Overall, we had an increase of 210,000. Same thing for Hive, a decrease of 880, and overall an increase of 3.1 million. Hut 8 has seen a recent increase of 590, overall 8.4 million increase in shares by institutions. Iris, recently 90,000, and overall 6.9 million, roughly 7 million. So, and then Marathon was a decrease of 2.3 million, and I think that might be basically because Marathon's not performing that well recently, and I think some of the institutions could be jumping ship from that as well. But overall, they're still up from when we started reporting it to now, so 4.47 million up on that. And then Mawson was actually flat for recent, and overall up 890,000. Riot was an increase of 550 recently, and overall an increase of 10.39 million. So even with Core being down quite substantially as far as shares being sold off, we are still overall up almost 31 million shares being purchased within the last couple of months in these miners. If we look just month over month, from this month to prior month, we're down 2.8, almost 2.9 million on it. But overall, we're still way up on it. And that could be just the appetite of the investors and the institutions. Things are falling down. They're trying to save as much as they can and rebalance their portfolios possibly. But I think right now what we're seeing is obviously a pretty good opportunity to buy. We may fall even more. Like I said yesterday, I bought some more Bitfarms, Cleanspark, and if they go any lower than that, I'm going to buy some more. Just trying to dollar cost average in. And it's just a great buying opportunity because what I'm seeing is where they're going to be in the future is a heck of a lot better than where they are now. And I don't know for a fact, but I have the belief that Bitcoin is going to eventually go up over 100,000, whether it's in a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, but I know it's going to happen. And when that happens, these miners are going to be doing really well. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Not a great month by Hut 8, obviously. And then I think the adoption that we're seeing is going to continue on. So I know it's a tough time we're in the market right now, being down and everything. So it's always better to be going green. When we are red, it's kind of, that's a down day. But all right, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Spreadsheet is always available to my Patreon members. And thank you to my Patreon members for their support. And we'll do a weekly miner versus Bitcoin update tomorrow. That'll be out sometime tomorrow. I don't know exactly when, or maybe Sunday. And if there's anything that interesting happens, we'll report on that as well. So thank you so much for watching. I can't speak. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye.